cool. You're cool.
I'm just gonna come out and say it. Fizzaroli is by far the best thing to come out of Helluva Boss. No, I'm serious. In a show that's so full of wasted potential, terrible directions, and awful character assassinations, how did a seemingly minor villain, so minor that he wasn't really introduced properly until the end of season 1, become one of the best characters in the entire show? Hey guys, it's the Pig King here, and today I want to talk about Fizzaroli because it's my belief that Fizzaroli is not only a good character, but the best thing to come out of Helluva Boss in a long time. Now, before we begin, I think it's fair to say that I have been very critical of Helluva Boss in the past, from the content in the show to the stuff around the show. I tend to talk about a lot of the more negative sides of the series than I do the good, and that's for a very good reason. Don't get me wrong, that whenever I criticize the show, it's always for a good reason. But today, I wanted to take a look at one of the few positive things from Helluva Boss, because despite my gripes with this show, I am still a fan of it at the end of the day. I've been with it since its beginning, since the pilot. I've been here since day one. So I do have a certain connection to it despite my feelings for it. And so today I just want to give a little light to some of the positive aspects of this show. Why is Fizzaroli simply the best? Well, to answer that, we first need to establish how he started, because despite how great he is now, he used to be just like every other stale and one-note villain. You see, back in season 1, we got introduced to him in episode 2, where we see him with one of his robo-replicas. Pretty neat, but outside of implying a basic history between him and Blitz, this version of him is a dumb robot who has no real link to Blitzo, so he's pretty much just meaningless. Then we see him in the second to last episode of season 1 with the Aussies episode, and there, while we finally get to see more of him, in all honesty, it wasn't very special. Ozzy himself was far more interesting in that episode than Fizz was, seeing as he was essentially the one running things there. So as you can already tell in season 1, Fizz wasn't really a very standout character, apart from his wonderful performance by Alex Brightman. But it was in season 2 where things began to change, as suddenly out of nowhere, we were getting back-to-back episodes of Fizzaroli. And it would be these very episodes in particular that changed everything for him. As now, instead of being the antagonist, he was now the protagonist of these episodes, with the events of each episode revolving around his actions, even though you do still get other characters like Blitzo in there. So what exactly happened in these episodes that was so good that it made Fizz the best character? Well, it's pretty much the opposite to the problems everyone else has. Let's use Octavia as an example here. I said in my video on her, she barely gets any development at all, despite the episodes supposed to be about her. She feels more like a plot device rather than a genuine person. But with Fizzaroli, he's the complete opposite, as we actually get more time with him where we can see him develop. And that's the key word here, development. Because the biggest thing these two episodes do that no other episodes seem to do is that they actually evolve the characters in meaningful ways. In episode 6 of season 2, we were given the basic setup. Fizz is someone who's cozied up to someone powerful but still holds a massive grudge against Blitzo, for a reason we don't yet know. There you have it, there's your setup, but unlike Octavia, they actually follow through on that setup, as both Blitzo and Fizz end up getting captured and so are forced to find their way out together or die. A perfect way to not only go into depth into their history, but also keep the stakes of the episode high. And when you do that, the audience is going to be much more invested in what the characters' relationships are, as we see both Blitz and Fizz slowly and organically begin to reconcile with each other through carefully chosen dialogue and thought-out actions. as we see both characters grow beyond their hatred for each other as they realise what happened before was not as bad as they initially thought. It was really good stuff, and it all works naturally because they actually follow through on what was set up by playing to the characters' strengths, all leading up to a finale where we get a almost repeat of the past conflict, with Blitzo having the chance to save Fizzaroli. Unlike last time, he ends up taking it, giving the audience the perfect payoff as the characters grow and evolve. It's their character arcs that make them so satisfying to watch. But this episode was definitely more of Blitzo and Fizz, so if we really want to see how this works so well, we need to look at the next episode that's dedicated to just Fizzaroli. Hold on guys, if you're enjoying the video peeps, and you want to see more content just like this where I go into depth with characters you pick from Helluva Boss, then be sure to like the video and subscribe. My goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we recently just hit 7,000 subscribers, so with your help, we can definitely reach that goal. And just to raise the stakes a little, if we hit 10,000 subscribers before the end of March, I will go over each Helluva Boss episode individually and make that a series for you guys. Isn't that nice? But if you want that to happen peeps, remember, you need to like the video and subscribe, and let's get back into the video. Here we see the big reason as to why Fizz works so well, and it's once again because of his character arc. The start of the episode establishes the personal conflict. We see the conflict grow as Fizz begins to unravel, and it's through him learning to accept himself as being good enough, as well as the help with Ozzy, that he finally grows as a character and finds peace within himself. With him no longer fearing Mammon, where before he was absolutely terrified of him. Fizz works so well as a character because he's allowed to grow. We see his vulnerability and his triumph. We understand why he is the way that he is, and also care about whether he can overcome his demons, simply because he's allowed to by the writers. The reason why so many Helluva Boss characters fall flat is because they're constantly being set up, but they never follow through, with some of them even ending up worse as a result, because they end up becoming too watered down or complicated that it's almost impossible to root for them or get invested in them. But with Fizz, he manages to strike that right balance because he's willing to evolve, and probably the best part about it all is that Fizz's growth stays. It's not completely abandoned by the next episode. This development sticks, and so watching these episodes feel much more rewarding. And all of this happens without even mentioning his personality. Fizz as a personality is very fun to watch, as he's silly but emotional. He's living good, but he wasn't always living good. He's got a unique design with some interesting features like his robotic limbs that make the best use of the animated format possible. The amount of expression he's able to give off while remaining consistent is honestly really well done. Sure, not all of his jokes land, and he can feel a bit too over the top at times. He's still a surprisingly entertaining personality who got treated with the right amount of respect he needed. To me, Fizzaroli is one of those characters that are so good they make the show they come from look even worse. As if the rest of the show had half as much as the effort that went into Fizzaroli, it would be excelling right now, and not completely failing. But despite all of that awfulness, at least we still have this goofy little clown to always look forward to whenever he next appears. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my takes, or did I perhaps miss something? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and while you're at it, what other characters from Helluva Boss should I talk about next? And with that peeps, it's been the Pink King here, and I will see you all next time.